Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave podcast, talking comics, movies, TV, and pop culture with the rogues who create them every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Rogue Matter podcast network, which is youtube.com/Rogue Matter, facebook.com/Rogue Matter podcasts. Join the movement. Go Rogue, roguematter.com. I'm your host, Michael Dolce. As always, joined by my cohort in crime, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir? You feel pretty good about that. You can talk now, but before you do, we are not only are we live. First of all, we are live streaming as we speak. I'm bringing up our Facebook window, which should be pretty exciting to see actual live people. But we also brought a guest to the show here, and that's pretty good. We have. I guess returning champion, right? You're a returning champion when all is said and done here. Mr. Darren Sanchez, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
So we brought you in here for our 75th episode extravaganza.
Very nice.
We didn't even know it was our 75th episode extravaganza until I was like, hey, wait a minute. 75 episodes. How'd we do that? And yeah, here we are. We're 75 episodes in. It's pretty cool, right?
Are we gonna do anything special for the extravaganza, or we're just gonna do the show and then we're gonna call it an extravaganza?
That's generally what we do.
All right,
yeah,
I'm just checking.
That's
I just want to make sure.
You didn't get the champagne?
No, were you sent champagne?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's in the green room.
In the green room.
Right? Okay.
Gourmet cookies.
I'm gonna have a
I think
little
that was
conversation
somebody else's
with
office you just went into. we haven't had a green room in a while.
I'm going to have a conversation with management.
I'm all about taking advantage of free stuff. Like, there's no question about that. But there's no green room. there's just no green room.
Wait a minute.
Those packages on the porch probably they weren't for us either.
Don't say that.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Don't say that. Like, I'm having a hard night. Don't say that.
I don't know. But we got a lot to talk about tonight. And what's pretty cool, the Spider-Man trailer, No Way Home, just came out, blew everyone's mind. Well, okay.
Didn't
when I
blow
say
my
everyone,
mind.
it blew my mind.
My mind. I was all right.
It blew my mind.
I came through it all right.
So
happy about.
That's pretty exciting stuff for that we're going to talk about. We're going to get into that next segment, though. But for right now, we're going to start with. I mean, there's just so much stuff to go on, and Darren, we have previously talked about a bunch of it, but we're gonna bring you in right now to kind of discuss what is the hottest stuff going on in pop culture right now, and we're gonna do it in one of my favorite ways, which is the gas meter. It's an abbreviation, right? It's an abbreviation. We learned this, right? It's not what did we say last time, Hassan? You had incorrectly said it was something.
Oh my God! It was It was the global astrometric.
No, I don't mean like what was it. I mean like, yeah, no.
What the gas meter was?
No. What the term for a G, like it's G period A period S period. It's an abbreviation.
Right.
You had said it was something else, like a palindrome or something, and I was like, no, I don't think that's right.
It's an acronym. But
I don't even know what palindrome
maybe
means.
It's an acronym. Maybe that's.
Yeah.
I think I use acronym. I don't think I use palindrome.
No.
All right.
So
I usually get paid a lot of money from words with that many syllables.
Yeah, okay.
So that check did not clear. I understand what GAS means now.
Yes.
But, it's one of those inventions that you came up with that you thought was really great.
Yeah.
But you thought you didn't have to explain to anybody else around you.
Right.
So it was one of those things where you were using it week after week, and I'm like, I'm not even going to ask him what this means. I'm just going to go with it.
Just quietly look it up. That's what everyone does.
If only he, if he had a Dolce dictionary, I would have been able to look it up, but it doesn't exist.
All right.
I'm writing one.
We are going to go through some of the hot stuff. So CinemaCon happened, right? So CinemaCon, that's Sony's big release, and they unveiled a whole bunch of stuff. They unveiled a new look at The Batman, which I don't know. At this point,
Let me ask you a question before. I know this is an important thing.
Yeah.
Right. But what good is it to us if we're not able to see any of the stuff that they see in CinemaCon? Because most of it's for insiders, right?
No, understood. Yeah. I mean, what do you mean? What good is it to us? It's good to me. It's good in the sense that we know that they're actually doing stuff.
I'm not talking about the show. It's good for the show, right? It's good content for the show.
Right, okay.
I'm just talking about like the fans. Like, what good is it for us that we know what producers were able to see in their own convention? You know, after they show it to the producers, release that stuff so
Right.
that we could all see it, so that we can all know what they know. That's what I say.
Okay. All right, I think that's fair.
I know that's fair.
I think everything you just said
I'm
was
a fair person. I'm very fair.
Is it?
Yeah.
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 So,
You don't think it's fair?
I have no opinion on it. To be honest with you.
You don't think that they should release it at the same time so that we can all see it. You'd rather just take their word for it that they saw something really spectacular.
Yes.
They wouldn't lie.
No.
So the big
Fair enough.
big takeaway for me for CinemaCon though
Of what you heard.
wasn't the Batman. It wasn't Clint Eastwood Cry Macho. There was the Sopranos prequel was unveiled as well too though. So that's actually
I have
kinda-
seen a trailer for that.
Yeah.
And that is his son is an uncanny match for his father, you
Yeah.
know. So, I mean, hopefully the writing is on par and that kid is as good an actor as his father is.
Yeah.
Which is that's a lot to ask.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
That's a tough
absolutely.
act to follow. So,
Yep.
but I will be there for that. That looks exciting. That excited me more seeing it than hearing about it. So,
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there'd be certain things about it. I was never a huge fan of the show, to be honest with you. Not that I didn't like the show. I just wasn't a huge fan. Right? Like it
The
wasn't
Sopranos
something.
you find. You're surprised to find that Sopranos is kind of a mixed bag. There's a lot of people who either loved it,
Right.
or really disliked
Well,
it.
there are episodes that are really slow. I didn't like the episodes with Tony's mom. They were always like,
And that was the first two seasons.
They were always like a real down, or that storyline. I just didn't
Yeah.
like that. Certain great shows have terrible storylines sometimes, and
yeah.
you got to just kind of sit through
Yeah.
them to get to the good stuff. So a lot of Sopranos were like that. I know that kids who watch, my kids, they're not patient enough to wait through the boring stuff
Yeah.
to get to the good stuff. So all that subtlety is really lost on a lot of people who want that instant gratification. So I just enjoyed the show. I liked Gandolfini, and I liked his relationship with his shrink, and
Yeah.
and all the guys were basically caricatures, and they were great. So that's when the show was its best, was when he was with his crew.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
just in keeping with what you were talking about, like
Okay.
not liking it. It's you find it's not.
I actually thought you were going to say something after his so,
Oh,
and I was completely caught off guard by
No,
it. I got to
well,
be. You literally froze me.
he just
In-
nodded.
in
This is what happens when we're live, though. See, 'cause
Yeah.
usually I'm not even paying attention to him, but I literally looked at him like,
in some stories there's
"Oh,
like,
you want me to say something?"
yeah. In some stories there's a like Breaking Bad. You'll get Breaking Bad, and everybody
Mm-hmm.
will be. Well, everybody will be basically like, this is the greatest thing on earth.
Yeah.
Right? But like I said, just in keeping with yours, a solidarity
Mhm.
with you. Sometimes The Sopranos is like a mixed bag. That's
Yeah.
all. Now I'm done. Now you me.
Okay. Well, the one that I took away the most though was the fact that we are going to get a Matrix 4. I didn't even realize. We've heard so many rumors about a Matrix 4 for God knows how long. I mean, for like 10 years, right? And then all of a sudden, Keanu Reeves does John Wick, and he reignites that franchise. Because can we agree? And this is a question.
We'll see.
Can we agree? Question mark. That the final two Matrix movies effectively sunk that franchise from a studio perspective. Like if you were to go to a studio and say, let's make a new Matrix movie, after watching those two and then watching how the fan reaction to it would be, it's not a franchise you would readily jump back into.
I disagree.
You disagree, really? So if you were a studio executive 10 years ago, but pre John Wick,
Yeah,
right?
I disagree too. If I was a studio exec, I would say, what story can you possibly tell that's going to save that franchise?
Yeah.
Instead of saying just outright no.
Mhm.
So I would want to hear the pitch. Is Keanu going to be in it? How dedicated is he? And let me hear that story, and then I would decide.
Okay.
I think basically the story ended. You know, like that's
That's never stopped studios before.
no. I'm not saying that they wouldn't do it because of, but I'm saying it was a good cap on it. So I
Yeah.
mean, I say that we didn't get any more Matrix movies between then and now because the stories ended and the storytellers decided that they were done until they woke up one day and decided they weren't done.
Yeah.
I need more money.
Yeah.
Right. The Matrix was about innovation as well as a cool story and a high
Yeah.
concept.
Mm-hmm.
The innovation in the dodging bullets and the fight scenes and all the effects, they're not going to impress people now if they stay consistent. They have to come up with something new that we haven't seen before that kind of adds to the mythology instead of just rehashing it, sort of like the Men in Black with Chris Hemsworth. And,
Right.
they didn't give us anything really interesting or new.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it depends on the story.
So the way we do the gas meter is that we actually go empty, full, half. Right. So if you're empty on something, we'll are you full on something? Or are you half on something? In terms of excitement, now Hassan hates the word excitement because he doesn't get excited for anything.
Anticipation.
So the question for me to you, Darren, is where is your gas meter? Is it empty on Matrix 4? Is it half full or is it full? And you could go half. You could go 3/4 or a quarter full. If you
Well,
want to.
I didn't really know much about it until we just started talking about it. So I was at empty, but now I'm maybe a quarter tank.
So you think there's no more story left?
They have to show me a story that I care about,
Yeah.
without being cute like Marvel with the variants and the retellings and the split universes and all that stuff. Something that makes sense. That's not just plot contrived and
Right.
Then yeah, I'd be interested, especially if it had new and innovative stuff in it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Hassan, where are you on Matrix 4?
I'm half full.
Yeah.
And I'll be the gas tank will be full as soon as I
See a trailer.
yeah, or
Right.
some kind of information.
It's a good
So
wait and see.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, I'm interested. I'll see it again. I just like everybody else have my misgivings or have my issues with the other two movies. I think the first movie is a superior product.
Yeah.
And the other two movies are are forced.
Not to change the subject, but it's a little like Aliens, or Terminator. Those were two, great movies. The first two of both of them, actually. But do you want to see Terminator 5 or Aliens 5? Not really.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Absolutely.
Moving down the list now. What promising news that came out, right, is that people have screened Shang Chi, and I've seen nothing but glowing reviews.
Me too.
Right.
Me too. Yeah.
So, where are we in terms of anticipation now? We've seen some awesome trailers, right? We've seen stuff that kind of can get our juices flowing a little bit. However, I think you showed us that really funny meme earlier
Yes.
about as excited as I was for Shang-Chi. As soon as they released the Spider-Man No Way Home.
Spider-Man knocked it right out of the.
It's like that toy you open first on Christmas, and then you forget about by the third present,
this
and
is
it's
the
over in the back,
greatest thing.
covered
Yeah.
by the clothes and socks.
Yeah.
That's where
Thanks
Shang-Chi.
for the Tide clip, Auntie.
I feel bad
You
now.
don't understand me. You never have. Look. With every Marvel movie, it's always. I'm really curious to see if they pull this off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just like ever since like Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy, where you're gonna give me a movie about with a tree and a raccoon, and it's supposed to it's gonna be on par with your Avengers movie or with your Captain America movie. I don't buy it, right? And then you go and you're like, oh, that was great. Yeah, I enjoyed it. And then they did it with Ant-Man. It's like you're gonna turn Ant-Man into a mainstream superhero. I don't buy it. And then you go, nope, this is great. And I'm going to go see the second one because that was great. So I believe they'll do it again with this. But mostly my interest in any Marvel movie is just curiosity. It's like, can they keep the streak going? My enthusiasm for Infinity War wasn't so much like the story that they were going to tell, but I just wanted to know how they were going to tell it.
Sure.
That, you've been building this up for 10 years. I just want to see you roll it out and see how successfully you can make that happen. So Shang-Chi is right up there in my curiosity stream. I'm interested in seeing that.
So would you go in the gas meter? Where would you go?
3/4 of the tank.
I
I'm
think
not
that's
all
pretty
the way
fair,
over
yeah.
there yet, but and then of course there's the there's the iffiness of our current social circumstance as to whether or not I'm gonna schlep over to a movie theater and
that's what makes it so interesting, right? Like we didn't talk about the idea of it being an experiment last week, but that's what Disney's essentially doing, because from the reports I'm hearing now, and we'll talk about this movie next, whether or not whatever Shang-Chi does is gonna dictate whether they delay Eternals, which does suck for it does suck for everyone involved in Shang-Chi, because it is of cultural importance, in the zeitgeist as well, and to not necessarily know what you're going to get as an outcome, thanks to the pandemic, thanks to all this stuff. And then also for it to then cause a ripple effect of saying, Venom's already been delayed, right? Venom is now reportedly in 2022.
Really?
Which is unfortunate, because we all kind of wanted to see that. But
no, we didn't all want to see
everyone in this room has wanted to see that. They were really dying. They think it was a fantastic popcorn fest. It was campy goodness last year.
That is a misleading statement.
I think it's very accurate.
That statement is...
I think as a sign of unity, the Rogue Wave podcast officially endorses the first Venom movie.
You're gonna pull the solidarity card.
Their sponsor.
Yes. That's what
that was the greatest movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's what happens when you.
That's an Oscar caliber movie.
When you don't forward memos, that's what happens.
Well, you don't read emails. That's what happens too.
It wasn't sent to me. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I understand. I know. I didn't like Venom. You did. I know. I just can't.
Right. All right. Move on.
I liked Venom.
That joke is old and dead.
I just can't help it. But
move on.
But no, going back to Shang-Chi, my anticipation level for it is also, I'd say, 3/4 of a tank. Darren, you're excited just because you love kung fu, right?
Yeah, I'm a huge kung fu movie fan, and I especially like the Shaw Brothers movies from the late '70s, and with the cheesy music and bad voiceovers and all. So if it was the next 5 Deadly Venoms, I would be more excited. But like Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a movie nobody asked for, and
right.
Same with Eternals. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody asked for that. I mean, but it's coming out, and there's going to be interesting things, and Marvel's going to do it well. So, yeah, I'm going to go see it. I won't miss a kung fu flick, but I was severely disappointed in Iron Fist. I think it was some of the worst kung fu stuff I've ever seen.
People have said too.
And so I'm hoping that they got a different choreographer.
I never. Well, yeah, but
did you hear the story? Hang on, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did anyway. The Iron Fist choreographer kind of laid the blame on the cast. He said, if there's people actually training.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
wow.
I read.
It might help if you hire someone who can do martial arts. That's big. So that's on the casting director. If this guy couldn't pull it off.
Well, he said that I forget which one of the cast. Was really great at training, but he singled her out and said she came in every day. She did 4 hours. We taught her this, we taught her that, and you watch every scene with her in it, and she's phenomenal.
Right.
He's saying basically the star.
So what you're
decided
saying
not to work
is
out.
how come Donnie Yen is not Shang-Chi?
What happened was
yeah.
yes, but yeah, no, essentially, that's exactly what they're saying.
But I do got to tell you, if Donnie Yen was Shang-Chi. Or Jet Li, or he's a little old, but if I would be full tank excited to go see that. So,
this new guy might impress everybody, though. I don't think they're gonna. I mean, after 2 years of downtime with only maybe Black Widow to kind of keep us busy, I think they're gonna pull out all the stops for the movie. I don't think they're gonna short shrift any of the action. So, I mean, look, their idea of action could fall short of what your idea of action is. There's always that possibility, but I don't think the film's gonna be boring.
Well, here's what I'm talking about. If you have a hero who is supposed to be, the master of kung fu, and he gets his ass kicked throughout the movie,
it's harder to believe for you.
Yeah, there's a certain aspect to that I like, like Die Hard, how John McClane was always getting beaten up, and Daredevil always gets his ass kicked. That's okay to a point, but you want a hero who can kick ass. Every once in a while, it's okay to do that, to me, this is the perfect opportunity for that. So
Yeah, that's the thing too. I love that point, right? That there are some movies where you want to just put yourself in the shoes of a hero or a vigilante or an anti-hero, whatever you want to say, and be like, oh man, those guys are gonna get it. Like I thought,
right, like Batman, or
I thought The Punisher season 2, I think like the 3rd episode when he was locked in the police station, and all the people were all the bad guys were descending on it, and I just sat back because you knew it's The Punisher, and you
Right.
knew it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
oh man, people are gonna die, and it's gonna be
you
great.
know that was
Like,
shot.
It's gonna be awesome.
That was shot right on top of the mountain up there.
Where?
I'll show you later, but it was shot like less than 5 miles from here.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Look at that. Shout out to Nyack, New York, where we're located right now.
Absolutely.
I think he was on purpose trying not to disclose our location. You just threw it. You screamed it out.
No, that's okay.
Nicely done.
Yeah, I'm
Nicely
okay with
done.
that.
Way to not
Right
read
outside
the
New
room.
York City.
Read the room. I don't know.
I don't think he knew whether or not he could shout it out. I have no problem with shouting it out. We're right outside New York
All
City.
I'm saying is what I'm perceiving. So it
Next
doesn't
next
matter.
week we're in Honolulu, right?
Yes. Oh,
I didn't get that memo.
It was with the champagne.
I'll take that memo any day. Yeah, really. If you can get me in there, that's fine.
Punisher season 2 though, the opening with that bathroom fight. That was the greatest thing I've ever seen in an opening of any
Yes.
TV show. That was
Yes.
amazing.
That was great as well.
That was
too.
amazing.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
that's when I got like, oh, these guys so
Right,
do not
right.
know who they're messing with.
It's a different kind of hero. If the kid from Kick-Ass was in that same situation, you'd be like, oh man, he's gonna get destroyed.
that kid's dead.
That
This
kid-
movie's already over. I
Yeah.
don't know I don't know why I sat down.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. So Shang Chi, I think it's 3/4 of a tank for all of us.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, I'm looking
Excited.
forward
Sure.
to it.
All right. Moving along, they mentioned it is the Batman. Okay. Now the Batman, I got to tell you, I am probably in the minority here. I really am. Even more so with the Venom comments. I don't want to see another Batman movie. I'm done. I don't know what they can do with Batman now. I have lived through the Tim Burton Batmans, which were awesome. I enjoyed the Val Kilmer Batman, even though
Batman.
yes.
Yes.
And I suffered through the George Clooney Batman, only to be pleasantly thrilled by the Christopher Nolan Batmen that have come since then, and then thoroughly surprised by the Ben Affleck Batman, which ironically to me is the most accurate Batman we've had on screen.
That's to date my favorite Batman.
Right? Is that like
next
not the
to
craziest
Michael
thing?
Keaton? Unfortunately, not unfortunately. I don't mean that in a negative way.
No,
but
no.
next to Michael Keaton, the
So
Ben
it's
Affleck
Ben
Batman.
Affleck, Michael Keaton, Adam West, and then the rest of them.
Adam West is like
That's a
he's-
different thing altogether.
Yeah, he's got a
I'm just-
place. He's
yes.
got a memorial place
Right.
all
Yeah.
on his own. It's like a shrine. I
Special
mean,
place in the heart, but it's
yes.
different
it's
animal.
a completely different animal. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a different
I
animal.
can't count him. It's like Christopher Reeve. Like you can't count the iconoclast like first in your perception, right? So you just count the ones that came after them.
It's like George Reeves, more like that. I think you can count Christopher Reeves.
George Reeves and Christopher Reeves, just like Adam West, and I think Michael Keaton's almost in that. He's almost at that level because of the time that's gone by. But Michael Keaton, like nobody believed in Michael Keaton when they first announced it. They were like, "This is not going to work."
Well,
This
you got to
is-
remember who he was at the time. He
Of
was, he was
course.
a comedian. He was skinny.
He was Mr. Mom.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Mom's gonna be, no, that's not gonna work. And then Jack Nicholson, people, he had more edge to him, but
People were excited because he was super popular back in
Yes.
the late 80s. And
that was that. His name is above Michael Keaton's on the marquee.
Makes
They were-
sense.
he was the selling point of it
well, the villain a lot of times is more of the selling point.
because that's the new different thing
Yeah,
in every
exactly.
movie. However, like I'm very very vocal on my feelings about the Nolan movies. So when we got Ben Affleck, who I didn't think it was going to be a joke. I did not think I've liked
Woefully miscast.
I've liked Ben
would
Affleck.
be the first impression I got.
Yeah, but I just what it is. I'll say honestly, I didn't think it was going to be that level. I didn't
Right.
think it was going to be like that.
Well, I can tell you when the Kevin Smith Daredevil movie came out, that movie was terrible, by the way. But when I saw Ben Affleck in the Daredevil costume, I thought to myself, he'd make a decent Batman. and so
Wow.
it
So
never.
what you're saying is you predicted it, and we have no way of verifying.
No,
Yes.
I mean
we have no receipts. There were no receipts
that's right.
whatsoever.
That's right.
Okay. All right.
By the way, I saw it coming, and there is no proof
Well,
that I did.
I had no
you
idea
just
he would
have to
be
believe
cast as Batman, but I just thought that he looked more like a
Yeah.
Batman because he didn't look agile.
Yeah.
He's too like big and
He
bulky.
looked like
Yeah.
a battering ram, basically.
Right, Charlie Cox is a much better Daredevil than Ben Affleck was. He's the right body type.
Yeah.
So
But what's
may-
funny about
Go ahead.
the DCEU is that they brought us almost the perfect Superman from since Christopher Reeve,
Right.
and then they bring us an unexpected great Batman.
Yes.
And then the Warner Brothers lets the whole thing fall apart.
Yes.
And in their mad attempt to be Marvel instead of building whatever they're trying to build on their own, and maybe handing the reins completely over to one man isn't the way to go. Fair enough, but some of that stuff is amazing,
Yeah.
and we haven't seen anything like that yet. I'm intrigued because I think Robert Pattinson.
Oh, I like him as an actor.
I think he's a great actor.
Yeah.
I think he's going to do something with it that we haven't seen. Whether we're going to like it or not, who knows?
Right.
You know?
So, Darren, we talked about this last week, and my whole, or maybe it was last week. My whole point with What If, to me, demonstrated that the comic books, when it comes to Marvel, are not important anymore because they literally can now create their own stories. They've got Disney Plus. They've got their own, distribution angle. They've got everything is now focused. The Disney Plus, everything on Disney Plus now feels more like the Marvel comics I grew up with, which became insanely popular, than the Marvel comics that we are now, reading. Because I feel like they're constantly all over the place. They're constantly rebooting. You have talent that comes in that doesn't want to create anything new because they don't want to lose the creation because they want to create their own IP. So they're just basically reusing the same villains over and over again, and it's just this factory. Whereas Marvel, on Disney Plus is taking chances. WandaVision, like it or hate it, was a chance, right? Shang Chi is a chance. Loki is a chance. All of these Eternals. I mean, ask me a comic book question about Eternals. I've read everything in the last 30 years. I have no idea. I'm like, I guess they're eternal. Maybe they live forever. I don't know.
who's the big guy with all the visors on
Right,
his
like-
thing,
But meanwhile, DC, to me, because the movies have failed so much, they need the comic books to do well, to create more stories.
Well, I don't know that DC's comics sell any better than Marvel's, to be honest.
Not a question of what sells better. What's more important now?
I think they
future.
just need to do better movies that are more in
Well,
tune with the comic books that they're doing.
For DC, it comes down to stuff like, my mother's name is Martha, also, by the way. So, but stuff like that just ruins the whole movie. Where it's just like a dumb ending, or this character doesn't look like Doomsday, the coolest character Superman has had probably since Lex Luthor was created. And he looked completely different. His power is completely different. He grew to like gigantic proportions. It was just not even.
And made from the corpse of General Zod.
It was.
Yeah.
They
What?
totally messed that up.
Yeah.
I almost cursed there. I don't know if I
Sorry,
can
we
or
would have
not.
binged you.
But they always have a tendency to take what's good about the comics and then screw it up. So except for the Batman movies, but
Although I will say though, when he said save Martha, it did dawn on me for the first time ever. Like, wait a minute,
That's true.
both their moms' names are Martha.
That's true.
But it wasn't
Well,
good enough a resolution
again,
to that.
I foresaw that. Only because my mom's name is Martha did I already know that both of theirs were Martha as well.
Okay.
So,
Are you like Green Lantern then?
The bottom line about this whole segment was just everybody should defer to Darren. That's the
Is that
final
what we're
resolution of this entire
That's
segment.
what I've been trying to tell everybody, and you got stubborn people
it's
like
hard to
Dan
get the word
Buckley and Kevin Feige. They just don't want to listen.
I know.
So
I feel that every week in this room with the sun. Come on, that was a good one. See, I told this though. I called him out on this earlier. I know when I've actually said something funny is that he fights back the laughter. That actually wasn't the case right there. I told a very funny joke earlier, and I could tell he just refused to laugh because he was internally laughing. Yeah. That one was more like he didn't actually find that funny. Out of
spite.
But
yeah.
3 out of 10, you make the Hall of Fame. So
they're not
I gotta
all
keep
gold.
going.
Yeah.
I got to keep going with this. All right, Batman gas meter. Mine is empty. Mine is empty on this. I have no desire for another Batman movie.
I got to tell you, I half expect them to sparkle, and I just really don't feel like Robert Pattinson is
sparkle.
I just got it. Yeah. All right, give Hassan a second here. All right, but now we can move on. But yeah, I feel like
I still didn't get it.
It's that's because you weren't forced to watch Twilight with your daughter a whole bunch of times.
Just wait a couple of years. Your daughter will have you watching it.
Well, they'll reboot it. Don't worry.
Either way, you'll get the joke.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, but for instance, we just talked about how the villain is often the big draw for the movie. I have no idea who the villain in this movie is. I don't even know what it's about or what point in Batman's life is this movie from. I just know that the images I've seen of him have been underwhelming, kind of weird looking.
Yeah.
How the cowl, there's like no cowl on the bottom. I don't know. I think it's because they want to show his face as much as possible, which is, the opposite reason he has the cowl in the first place.
Right.
So, but no, it's empty right now. But again, I'll keep an open mind. Show me some more later, and maybe I'll get interested. But right now, it's empty.
Hassan?
It's a half tank on the curiosity meter. I'd like to see what they do with it. I too am. I don't know if I'm tired of Batman utterly. There's always room for Batman in my mind.
You can always have a Batman.
Yeah, I mean, look. There have been Batmans I've loved, and there have been Batmans I have not liked. So, I mean, any Batman that's any potential to like Batman is fine with me.
Mm-hmm.
How would you feel about it if they told you that this Batman is going to be rated R, and that it might compare more to The Boys or Invincible, or even Titans than to the old Batmans?
I don't know. Look. My issue with the Nolan Batman is that he just didn't seem like Batman. He's just, like Christian Bale he looked great in the suit and whatever, and there's some great action in those movies. I think there were really good drama movies about a guy who tried to be a superhero, but it didn't seem like Batman to me.
Well, Batman always screws up in a couple of ways, in my opinion. Is one, there's not enough like martial art kind of fighting. Like there was one scene in in the Michael Keaton Batman where he actually fought and made a couple of blocks and dodges, and there should have been a lot more fighting like that, instead of the stiff suit, almost like the first Star Wars Obi-Wan Darth Vader fight. That's kind of what Batman fights are like. They're just stiff and slow, and they're over in like one punch, which fights generally aren't like that. So I feel like they could get a lot more authentic with the fighting. And the other thing is he's supposed to be the world's greatest detective. And
that's what this movie's supposed to be, right?
Well,
this is supposed to highlight his detective prowess.
The reason why my meter is not all the way on zero empty is because Pattinson probably wouldn't have taken the role if there wasn't enough meaty character stuff to do. Okay. And the thing, in my opinion, that was missing from the Nolan Batman is that his character, he was more of not a parody, but he was more of a symbol than he was a character, right? So his Bruce Wayne was an act. His Batman was supposed to be his true self, but his Batman was more of a like a collage of Batmanisms as opposed to him being like an actual character in that suit. So I'm thinking that we're probably. I mean, the only time I was ever with Christian Bale is when he was fighting Bane in the third one, in the sort of maligned third movie.
Okay.
Because he was losing the fight, and you could actually see him struggling to, So that was the first time in 3 movies that I was like 100% with him.
Sure.
So I'm looking forward to them like just putting someone in that suit that I give a darn about, which hasn't happened in a while. Affleck. I liked the Affleck-isms of Affleck, but his his dynamic with Alfred was a little off, just
Yeah,
just
I
a
think
bit
that's
off.
more Jeremy Irons than Ben Affleck, though.
I
feel
don't know. I don't know.
I like this dynamic with Wonder Woman because Batman is sort of the playboy kind,
Yeah.
and you always got the kind of vibe that he was trying to hook up with Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
and I think that's fairly accurate
She's into it. Don't worry.
of what Bruce Wayne would probably do.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I fondly look back on that. I'm upset.
So
that
you're
we're-
quarter of a tank then?
No, I'm half tank. I'm
You're
still
half
half tank.
You're half tank.
Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause it sounded like you went down as you started talking.
No. I mean, I know nothing about it. I'm half tank because I am hoping that Patterson is just going to add something to that role. I mean, it could go the complete opposite direction.
All right. We're going to wrap up this segment with the last one on the docket, which is The Eternals, which had a new trailer out last week as well. The big news, obviously, is, again, the rumor that depending on how Shang Chi does in terms of the box office, and not because of the quality of the film, but obviously with the pandemic influencing, moviegoers, the fact that Shang Chi is not going to be streaming the same time as it is on theaters,
Day and date.
will give a clear indication as to, was Suicide Squad a aberration because of the pandemic, or was it an aberration because it wasn't good, or was it an aberration because it was streaming the same time, that it was out in theaters? It's one of those question marks, right?
Right.
And they won't know the answer. This one, they'll kind of know. Like, okay, if Shang-Chi is a Marvel movie, you can put it up against Black Widow back before the Delta variant kind of came into the public, consensus, that if it can make this amount of money, then it's good. So now we've got that kind of cloud hanging over as to whether or not we're going to get an Eternals movie. And I ask the question, do you even care? Does anybody care if we get an Eternals movie? How high on the gas meter are we? Even though it's a Marvel movie, and I agree with you, Hassan, there's a level of curiosity to it.
Right.
But I feel like everyone's kind of, I don't feel like this is the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, it is in a way because, like I said, nobody's asking for this movie. But I think the thing that's exciting about it is the same thing that people were looking for in WandaVision and they're looking for in the Spider-Man trailer, is all the Easter eggs that are pointing to what's going to happen next. Because nobody cares about the Eternals, but if Galactus shows up, holy shit, that's going to be awesome. So really it depends on what they do and what other characters are in it, and how it affects the MCU future.
Yeah.
In general.
The genius of the Marvel format is that you have to see, there's a must-see aspect to every one of the films, even the one where the main character is already dead, and this is like a flashback movie. There's still I got to see this, like, just because there may be a piece in there somewhere that fits into the puzzle. The rest of it.
When it's streaming, though, there is no urgency.
No.
So if they're judging by opening weekend on something that's streaming, I think that's misleading. Because maybe you want to watch it with your wife, but she's not really that into it. So you got to wait like 2 weeks before you finally get a chance to watch it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of what goes on with streaming. So you can't judge it in the same way of a movie that's strictly theater release.
Right.
Because theaters, really, that opening weekend is the biggest time. If you wait till week 3, you're going to be in a theater with like 4 people.
Yeah.
And maybe that's good right now.
Yeah,
But
it would be great.
one of the reasons you go to a movie is to feel the excitement from everybody when cool stuff is happening on the screen. So
I don't know. I mean, I think the data shows that people are more afraid of this COVID thing than everybody is willing to admit. You know, in places where they take it seriously.
Right.
So, it seems like all the metrics are slightly off, where everyone's like, yeah, we'll be able to get back to normal when this date happens, when that happens. And it just doesn't ever seem to happen, even when everyone's given, like, the coast is clear. Like earlier this spring, like okay, everybody come back out, and the people just kind of tepidly came out, but it wasn't a run on the beaches or any of this other stuff that we thought it was going to be. Fast 9 didn't bowl everybody over, and they were like, well, the movie wasn't that great. It's like, okay, that's a possibility. The next one was Black Widow,
Mm-hmm.
and that didn't explode. So people are like, "Well, the movie's not that great," and that's
the
again
the dual release also hurt that.
yes. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, maybe so, but if you have a choice, there,
I wouldn't say afraid. I would say hesitant. I think it's you weigh the risk reward.
It doesn't
right?
feel like the smart thing to do when you're going somewhere to have a good time. You don't want to have to be worried about,
dying.
just any
Getting
any
ill.
kind of danger. Like walking through Central Park at night. Sure, I want to get from X.
Yeah, you want to get to the east or the west.
But I'm not going to walk through Central Park at
No.
night, even though it's probably the quickest way. I'll pay for the cab.
Pre-rising crime in New York City, I would have ridden the subway no problem. I went in the city a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, I'll take a cab. I will take a cab rather than because you just don't want to be that one person
Right.
that gets stabbed in the subway. You don't want to be that one person that is part of that next outbreak that happens.
It's not fear. It's just you don't want to die for something stupid.
It's risk versus reward. Like,
Right.
what do I get if it works out? I got a movie, which
Right.
I could have gotten at home, or if I wait 30 days, I could get.
Right.
Versus the risk. What do I risk if it doesn't
Right.
work out? So, and I honestly believe that people are more weary. Maybe not afraid. Like, let's not use afraid, but I mean, people are more weary than like everyone's anxious to get out of their house. Like
They are.
No, everyone's anxious to be safe. They're
Well,
not. They're anxious to be able to do all the things that they used to do without having to worry
Sure.
about anything.
I think that's fair.
It's like if you're a jogger and the minute you see that it's raining or oh man, it's like 25 degrees outside, I'm not going to jog today. It's like any excuse to not go is
take
really enough to not go. And COVID is a great excuse to just watch it at home. It's so much easier. We don't have to get a babysitter, whatever. It's just so much easier. And if that option is presented, a great percentage of people are going to take it.
Yeah. All right, what do you guys think? What's your gas meter for Matrix 4, for Shang Chi, for Eternals, the Batman? We gave you our rundown. When we come back, oh boy, that Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man. I'm going to the theaters to see that. I got to tell you, that trailer, Spider-Man No Way Home, blew my mind. We talk all about it when we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. Hey, really quick, I want everyone to go to SireStudiosInc.com/Kickstarter. I've got a new Kickstarter out. It's Time Trader number 3, which I'm pretty excited about. We are moving along with the storyline. It is about Dylan Sharp. He can rewind time whenever he wants to, goes to the stock market to cash in, discovers it's run by an Illuminati of people just like him. Chapter 3, he is now in bed with the enemy. And how do you get out when you realize you're in too deep? Go to SireStudiosInc.com/Kickstarter right now. All right. Spider-Man No Way Home. You actually made a really interesting analogy earlier about the Christmas present, right? Like you open a Christmas present. There's also the anticipation for Christmas, right?
Sure.
There's all these rumors we've had for months now that we're going to get Alfred Molina. Alfred Molina basically kind of even said it. He's like, oh, yes, I'm filming that. And then he really I'm surprised he's still in the movie. There's rumors of Willem Dafoe, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. Jamie Foxx kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit as well, too, kind of confirming that he will also, appear in the film. So there's been this anticipation. And I got to tell you, it seemed like a cool idea, but the way I handle anticipation is not to get too excited about something until I actually see it, right? And seeing Dr. Octopus step out,
the metallic tentacle.
seeing the arm come down, seeing the pumpkin bomb, seeing Spider-Man dealing with all of this, all of these different villains, I gotta tell you, it was pretty. Like it was one of those like, oh crap, this is Christmas. This is like a Christmas present
right.
early.
Totally agree. I mean, the last movie they were setting the stage for the Sinister Six when Vulture and Scorpion met in prison. You're kind of getting that feeling that is coming. Only thing is, we didn't anticipate how it would be coming in that, Doc Ock and maybe Sandman or whoever else. Hopefully Mysterio, but
he did.
he's a master of whatever, deception.
You can't have the Sinister Six without Mysterio.
He's
so.
probably not dead.
I don't know.
No, that's the Sinister Five.
No. Usually they fill in. They like Hobgoblin shows up, or whatever the case might be. So Green Goblin,
Cletus Cassidy.
It just has to be 6 people.
Well, to your logic,
Paul Giamatti,
Doc
Rhino
Ock is dead.
Right.
Okay.
It's very
so
true.
Right.
Don't worry about it. Don't think too hard on it.
I haven't seen any Jake Gyllenhaal reports though.
He
That's
probably knows how to keep his mouth shut, unlike a lot of the cast. But I'm thinking he's going to be in it because to me it would be kind of short-sighted to hire someone like Jake Gyllenhaal and not have bigger plans for him.
Yeah, all bets are off once the multiverse is
Exactly.
unleashed.
Can we say that Marvel kind of groomed us to accept the multiverse in the Loki show?
Yeah.
Just that basically conceptually it's a trailer for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So even though they did kind of show us when Doctor Strange, what was the bald lady when she showed the timeline to the Hulk?
Sorcerer Supreme.
She showed the timeline to the Hulk, and so we kind of got the gist of it there. But Loki kind of reinforced it. So now anybody who was dead, like you were saying, are comics even important anymore? Anybody who died, or an alternate universe, Gwen Stacy didn't die,
right.
or you could have Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane meet. You could have Mary Jane meet MJ Zendaya, which would be kind of weird. So I just I hope Miles Morales shows up. I think people are going to watch this excited, looking for Easter eggs. Basically,
they looked for it in the trailer immediately.
Yeah, I mean, people who have the back story of having watched 50 superhero movies in the past 15 or so years, they're excited to put that knowledge to use by pointing out every little thing that they see, and I think that's what part of the fun is going to be. And there'll be a lot of criticism on missed opportunities, because how could you not have missed opportunities in a multiverse movie? But I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it.
What was your reaction, Hassan? Now, full disclosure, your favorite superhero movie, Spider-Man 2. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's in my top 3.
Top 3. Okay.
Top 3.
Superman 1 or 2?
Superman 1.
Yeah.
The Crow, and then Spider-Man.
Fascinating. Okay.
And Blade.
But that's number 4.
Okay.
So these guys would be the top 3. How dare you? Anyway, so look, it's the same. That's the problem with me. It's like this boring answer. It's the same. I mean, the meter's a little further up. Like it's 3/4 of a tank full as opposed to half a tank.
We're talking a half tank Godwin.
Yes. I will own half tank Godwin. But, first of all, it's coming this year, which is great because I'm sick of seeing trailers for stuff that's coming out 9 months or 2 years from now. It seems like everything that everybody said about the movie is going to be true, that it's going to be extravaganza. I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much because my mind can go all kinds of places, So, like, I want to see everybody in this film.
Yeah.
And most likely we're not gonna,
Yeah.
A little like the Super Bowl, like 1 in 10 lives up to the hype.
Sure.
Exactly.
So hopefully.
So I mean, even that Doc Ock, that moment of Alfred Molina, that might be the most Doc Ock we get in that entire film.
Yes,
sure.
Which is great, but you can't set yourself up to believe that he's going to be the main villain, or that the Goblin's going to be the main villain. All this, you remember what's that movie, War? With Jet Li
yes,
and Jason Statham. where they got the posters with the two of them facing off, and they're like, yeah, Jet Li versus Jason Statham in the movie War that you've all been waiting for, and they fight for 10 minutes, and then they join forces at the end, and so I mean, never let the hype get you.
Well, how long did Chuck Norris fight Bruce Lee
In Game of Death?
No, not Game of Death. Return of the Dragon.
Is that Return of the Dragon? Yeah, Game of Death is the movie that they made posthumously.
That's
for
Kareem.
Bruce Lee. Yeah.
It was about
Return of the Dragon. Yeah, it was, but that was a long, drawn out fight, though. We just recently
there was
watched
a lot
that
of
in
build
the
up,
other
but
podcast.
the actual fight was about 10 minutes. So
Also, and nobody knew who. I mean, that wasn't.
Here to talk about other podcasts. In our podcast.
That was
Go
a.
download Cinementals. It's by Steve.
this is
Hovecki.
not a
It's
kung
pretty
fu
good.
podcast.
Yeah,
It's good. No,
that was a.
you should go see
That's kind of a. That's a. Nobody knew who Chuck Norris was at the time. So they thought it was just some rando
Yeah.
thug.
It wasn't a huge
Now
marketing.
it's a big deal. Like, oh my God, there's a movie where Chuck Norris actually fights Bruce Lee. But yeah, it didn't last very long. Of course, these fights are not supposed to last long, but these moments, it's at most a 2-hour movie. So you got to manage your expectations of what you're going to get.
Like the Batman faces off against Joker for most of the movie, but in the case of what you're talking about, it's just a 10-minute fight and then that's it. And then suddenly
it's
they're
over.
friends, and which is the case when anytime you see a comic book, by the way, that has like a hero versus hero cover. It's either a misunderstanding or they fight for like one panel.
Because they don't know who the other guy is.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. It was you.
It was you, George. You're George.
Yeah.
Like, except for like the one time where I was absolutely wrong, where I thought that was going to happen, was Kong versus Godzilla, where it was like that fight. There were 3 different fights in that film. It's a wacky film. It's crazy, but there were actually 3 different monster fights in that.
Mothra was the real hero of that movie. Gotta say.
So the one thing this trailer did, though, that I normally hate, however, being a comic book fan, actually loved, was it gave away a key plot point, like a super key, like basically the entire spoilers. If you did not see Spider-Man: Homecoming, was it Homecoming? What was the last one?
Far From Home.
Far From Home. Sorry, if you haven't seen Spider-Man: Far From Home, I knew I was going to do that too. It was one of those things where I'm in my head. I'm like, say the right one, say the right
They
one.
throw home in all of them. That's just to confuse you.
Yeah. Well,
So.
just me. I mean, they're just doing it to confuse me. I understand that. But it ends on this super cliffhanger, and you're like, oh, wow, I wonder what's going to happen. In the very first trailer, the very opening thing, it's like, Doctor Strange, can you please erase this? Oh, that's what they're going to do.
Right.
Normally, I hate that, right? Normally, I'm like, oh, man, you just blew it. However, him going to Doctor Strange, dialing up in my head my comic book, my comic book Rolodex, my long box in my head, I was like, Brand New Day, which was a comic book series that basically effectively erased the marriage between Mary Jane and Peter in the comics, utilizing that.
So he could save Aunt May.
So he could save Aunt May, right. But mostly because they wanted Peter to be single again. And that was a good way to do it. So it's referencing this, and I go, oh, crap, that's Brand New Day. And it actually it did something to me where normally I would have hated it. And I go, oh, no, actually, I think it's great. I'm glad. I'm so glad because now I'm more excited about the Doctor Strange role in this film because it just makes so much more sense to me.
The MCU seems to be like a pastiche of like really great Spider-Man moments, and then they keep flirting with the really bad Spider-Man moments. Like he wears the Scarlet Spider suit in Homecoming.
That's okay. That's cool.
No, I'm saying that's what. But they're doing like really good stuff, but they're being very tongue in cheek while doing it because they're giving you like a lot of good with a couple of flecks of bad,
right?
And they're making you accept the bad because they do the bad stuff in a really good way, So like, of course, Peter Parker is not a clone in Homecoming, but he does wear the Scarlet Spider outfit, and they find a way to get that in there or something that resembles the Scarlet Spider outfit.
I got to tell you that Peter Parker is essentially like Charlie Brown, where you love him and all the bad stuff always happens to him. He's the one that gets the coal when he goes trick-or-treating, and
the rock.
And the football gets pulled out from under.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that character has a hot girlfriend and is popular in school, then
the story's over.
The story's basically over.
Yeah.
So they have to do that, or it's no longer the same
That's what they say is wrong
Spider-Man.
with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Even though I don't mind Andrew Garfield, I enjoyed him.
I liked his interaction with Emma Stone. I thought
Exactly,
that was,
but he was a little too hip. He was
Yeah.
cool. He was,
Yeah.
he wore his Spider-Man
he
really
was,
well.
He was unbelievable as a 90-pound weakling loser scientist kid. You know?
He's even got a dunk, basketball scene where he dunks on
Right.
everybody.
Well,
Like it's like the penultimate high school badass,
Yes.
moment. So it does like Tobey Maguire wore that underdog
Yeah.
Yes.
on his sleeve.
Yes.
Like he really wore that really well. Like you watch those movies and you just like this is an abuse fest. Like
Right.
this
Right.
guy.
But Tobey Maguire can't play Superman. Andrew Garfield could probably pull that off. You know,
Yes.
it's like I was saying with Batman. The right body type makes a big difference in
Yeah.
Daredevil. The right archetype person. Casting is huge.
Yeah.
You're not going to put Brad Pitt as Peter Parker.
Right.
I mean, for one,
Well,
he's like 50 years old. But
In my opinion,
Multiverse, anything can happen.
in my opinion, Val Kilmer didn't work as Batman. That was one of my things. He was a little too.
He was blonde.
He was a little too GQ to be Batman. Like he didn't,
Sure.
I like Val Kilmer, but his Batman just kind of always felt a little off to me. But on the other hand, George Clooney made it look like a great Batman, and we know what happened there.
Yeah,
So
Batman can't help bad writing.
No.
So, he's not that good a hero.
Batman's not strong enough to withstand a bad writer.
I have a full confession to our live audience and to Hassan. Now, Darren, you didn't hear this, but Hassan and I were talking earlier, and I said, "Hey, I think Lizard's in this," which is great. And I actually stopped and thought to myself, "Wait, have we seen Lizard? Because I see some photos of him online,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't even remember him being in any of the movies. That's how bad.
He was in the Andrew Garfield,
That's what
Kurt
you know what?
Connors.
Yeah. That's how bad Amazing Spider-Man was. That I don't even remember one of Spider-Man's most classic villains.
Amazing Spider-Man was actually pretty good compared to the second one. So
Ooh,
The contribution,
about
the
that.
contribution of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man was like they finally got that CG not to look wonky.
yes.
Because everybody remembers the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans with such fondness, but some of that CG was not good. Some of his, because they really tried to catch the McFarlane-esque,
Right.
Yeah,
really weird contortion stuff. So the Andrew Garfield just looked his
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
looked the
looked
part.
really good. His Peter Parker was not great.
No.
But his Spider-Man was really strong. And as bad as that second movie is, I agree. I don't really love that second movie at all. And I've said it 100 times. That scene where he catches the police car on his back,
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the greatest superhero moves I've ever
Moments.
seen.
I
Yeah.
actually can remember the second one. I thought I agree. Jamie Foxx's Electro was
He looked great.
when he was Electro. Yes,
Yeah, he looked great,
Yes.
but
Max
I don't-
Dillon,
you know
not
who
Max
did the
Dillon.
same shtick right there was I don't remember the actress's name, but the Wonder Woman movie where the nerdy coworker.
Oh, yeah.
It was almost exactly like Jamie Foxx.
Yes. Yes.
Becoming the villain afterwards, and
Kristen Wiig.
Kristen, yeah,
Yeah.
she's so.
Yeah, but I remember the fight scene in Times Square in the second one. In the only thing I remember from the first film, and I saw it out in California. I was actually out with mutual friends Marcus Perry and company. We saw it with the Spider-Man visual effects team, like all the guys and gals who worked on the visual effects for the movie. We actually watched it with them, so it was cool because we stayed until the credits so they could all see their names up there and start cheering, which was pretty awesome. It was an amazing experience. I remember that. I can remember the seat I was in. I remember the popcorn. I remember we actually toured the Chinese theater before we went to actually see the movie.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
which was great.
Okay.
Don't remember a thing. I don't remember the movie in any way, shape, or form. I can remember everything around it. Everything
Were you
after it.
drinking at the time?
No, I'm telling you, I can remember everything before it and after it. And no, we went drinking after the movie.
I think that was in the phase that I was going through where I was like super angry about like the lack of Yeah,
Phase.
I know. I knew that was coming. There's nothing I can do about
glad
it.
he
I
said
knew it was coming.
You were walking
But there was I was trying to have a decent conversation. You guys just make fun of me. That's what I don't understand. But I just remember being mad
Yeah.
that was like, why are they doing this?
Yeah.
Like we had good spy.
Well, it's a
Not-
simple answer.
Not counting spy. Of course, like
Yeah.
cha-ching.
No,
And-
they would lose the rights if they didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is a cha-ching. Like
Yeah,
we're not losing
yeah.
that. We don't. But and then watching it, I was like, this is not moving any needles. It doesn't really do anything. I remember the second one where spoiler when they killed Gwen Stacy, and I remember the writers like Orsi and Kurtzman, who were the guys that gave us Transformers and a bunch of other gems. I remember them talking in the commentary.
Transformers is not known for its writing, by the way.
Well, yeah,
so-
apparently not now. Definitely. I remember them talking, and they killed off Gwen Stacy. It was like, this was a really tough decision for us to. And I'm like, why is this a tough decision? Everybody wrote her off the minute you put her in these movies.
Right.
It's like Gwen Stacy is dead.
And
You know.
haven't you heard of the multiverse?
Yeah,
It's
well
not, you know-
now, yeah, but that didn't exist at that
No, I'm
time,
kidding,
or that
but
was
yeah.
just coming out, and then I think those movies actually launched the whole Renaissance that we're enjoying now, or something like it. It's just it just shows like the disconnect of the people who were putting it together. Like if you think if you think killing off a character who's known throughout comic book history for being killed off is an important or very risky move for you to make, then you don't really understand the character that you're trying to write about.
Yeah.
And then they got the Robotech Rhino, like they got Paul Giamatti in a big
that
mech
was just
suit,
dumb.
like,
That should have been ended up on the cutting room floor. I respect
Yeah.
Paul Giamatti, but that was just dumb.
firing missiles, and then you end your second movie on a funeral.
Yes.
How no?
See, I remember too very clearly, and I think it was because of the visual effects, like you mentioned, where I at least walked out of there saying it looked like Spider-Man swinging through the city at that point.
I said, that's the dawn of
Right.
the workable CG. Like, holy crap, this really looks looks
I
realistic.
remember Jamie Foxx in a tank with a bunch of electric eels and a lot of stupidity in the story that wasn't really any better than the Adam West Batman movie.
Right.
That's what I remember about it.
And then there's also this weird thing that modern movies do, and they don't understand it. And I think it resonates, even though people can't put their finger on it. It's agency. Right? You can't okay, in say like The Force Awakens, Star Wars: The Force Awakens. The spoiler alert, they kill off Han Solo in that film. In the film, I'm very sorry, Darren. I'm very sorry. In the film,
Oh, snap.
he spends the entire film refusing the call, right? I'm not going. I'm not. And everybody's telling him, you got to get back in action, whatever. So then when he finally does it, he gets killed. So everyone's been telling him to do something he doesn't want to do, and then he dies once he submits and does what they asked him to do. That's kind of a theft of his agency. The real way that should work traditionally is that everyone should be telling him to stay away, and he goes there anyway. That's how you kind of reconcile a big loss, is that it was his choice. He was the one who wanted to do this.
They didn't want to make him the hero. That's what it was.
And
They were
when you
too
start
busy
to-
shitting on all the old characters.
Yes, and when you start to manipulate things like that, you start to destroy those things. It's the same with Gwen Stacy. Like, she was about to get on a plane.
Right.
It's because of Peter that she's there.
Right.
In the first movie, the father says, "Stay away from my daughter, or you'll get her killed." And in the second movie, because he just doesn't, she dies, and then he feels real bad about it. And then he has a hero moment at the end where he's surviving a missile attack from the Rhino. And then that movie ends, and Sony's like, "We did it," and it's, no, you didn't. So, and then now we have Tom Holland. So that shows you
Tom
how
Holland's
successful
great,
that was.
Great Spider-Man.
I really like him. I really think he's strong. But that Spider-Man is
full circle back to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Very nicely done, Hassan. You got us around. We went on the tour and we got back. I started this on a tour and we got back in here. One complaint that I have about the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, and I'm seeing this in the trailer, and this is again kind of, I never feel like Spider-Man is the star of his own movie. And I don't mean that his supporting cast is somehow.
But none of the Marvel heroes are usually the star of their own movie, with the exception of Thor, and that's only because
Captain America, the first one, I thought.
Well, Captain America, sure.
And Iron Man, the first one. I thought the entire first phase.
Yeah, but once you get in, and that's how they launched it. But once you got into that, I mean, the Winter Soldier, which is probably a lot of people's favorite Captain America movie. Sure. How many Avengers was in Winter Soldier? And then the third Captain America movie, though, all the Avengers were in it. You know, it wasn't. Right. But it was about what he wanted, but it wasn't just about him. They introduced Black Panther in that movie.
I know what you're saying, but I don't feel the same way when it comes to, and maybe it's because they treat him that he's a teenage Spider-Man, right? And that's something we haven't. I mean, we did get that in Amazing Spider-Man, but Andrew Garfield was like 30 when he was like a teenage Spider-Man. So we get like a legit looking teenage Spider-Man dealing with the teenage, woes. I mean, Amazing Spider-Man 2, to what we just talked about, didn't touch on, Peter in high school or college. It was never really part of the story at all, whereas it is more part of the story here. Why are we like? I get that Doctor Strange cast the spell, but there's him on a train. There's him, everywhere. It feels like this is Spider-Man Marvel team up, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like most of the movies have been like that since after Phase 1. All the Phase 2 movies have had at least 2.
I guess. No, I guess it just it. There's a difference,
especially like in their third or fourth iteration.
There's a difference between like being in the world, right? And so you're going to come across, which is what the old Marvel comics did. And hey, we haven't seen, we haven't gotten a definitive like Spider-Man to what the Tobey Maguire movies were, right? Those were, and obviously I get it. It wasn't a shared universe.
There was more drama. Now there's more focus on action and cute lines. It's like it's almost like a sitcom where it has a certain rhythm to it, and you get a laugh every so many seconds. So I know what you're saying, but he's still the central part of the movie, but he's also up against Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. And now he's up against Doctor Strange,
right.
and they're great actors with a big presence, and they do steal some of the light. But that said, he's still great. I think there's a little bit of danger with the multiverse. When the Spider-Verse first happened, you came to my house one time, and I had a bunch of them on my coffee table. You said, "What do you think of the Spider-Verse?" And I didn't like it, honestly, because I always thought of being Spider-Man was something special. If everybody in the world can be Spider-Man, and there's like 50 of them in this comic, what's so special about being Spider? It's like you're a stormtrooper. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there has to be something special about being Spider-Man. And when you have a multiverse where there's just a whole bunch of them, it starts to walk the line of being silly,
right.
Being like Back to the Future where Marty meets himself, just kind of stupid. And I think there's a danger of having the relevance of like a Family Guy cutaway,
right.
where it's just some kind of weird thing that happens and it doesn't mean anything, but maybe there's an Easter egg in there that'll mean something 3 movies from now. But
sure.
but so you might be watching the movie and it won't have a traditional story. It'll just be a bunch of setup for stuff that's going to come in the future, and that's a real danger if you're doing a lot of multiverse stuff like that. And teasing things like Game of Thrones where you don't
sure.
pay off in the end.
Sure.
That there's a danger to that. So
only they had more episodes.
No, you can't do more.
Last point on it, and this is again a very good segue into it. The one thing this trailer did when I was watching it, though, was give me a feeling that I was a part of some sort of like end game like moment with all of the Spider-Man movies coming together, and it was almost like you pressing the fast forward button in a way, because usually Marvel has to layer these things, right? Like Infinity War took, what did it take? 8 years for it to fully blossom to the point where it's like, holy cow, it did pay off, right?
It
and
did.
It did get to
it
a point
did.
where,
but they could have also done it in 5 years. If they didn't
sure.
want to put 8 heroes in there, they could have put 5.
Sure.
So
but they did it, right?
Yeah.
And the first Avengers, I had the same feeling where I was like, wow, I'm actually watching something that is as close to reading a comic book shared universe as I'm never going to
Right.
get.
Right.
I actually
Bec-
got
because
that feeling.
things, you know why? Because things mattered. Things that
Yes.
you saw in the story mattered. Somebody died. It had repercussions.
Yeah.
And now, it's almost like you can wish things away, and there's variants running around, and you don't know what the hell's going on, and that's dangerous.
Any storyline that goes on long enough, it's going to start to self-parody. It's inevitable.
I thought you were going to say self-destruct, but
Well, I mean that's pretty much the same
Yeah,
thing, because
yeah.
once you start to become a parody of yourself, you
Sure.
you start to fall apart. Now, I'm not saying we've reached there yet.
I think there's a term for that. Something about a shark.
I don't know what you're talking about.
King shark.
Yes,
Is that
yeah.
it?
In a
King
positive
Shark.
way, though, felt like an Endgame. I felt like I was watching Avengers Endgame when Doc Ock, his arm comes down and the Green Goblin.
Well-
It was like
The other thing I was about to say was the multiverse, right? When it's just like Darren says, like if you start to make it that anybody could be Spider-Man, it takes away his uniqueness.
right.
But if you get in the hands of a good writer, you start to see the endless possibilities of what you can do with, like,
Right.
say-
With the same power, he could be like, "Holy crap! I didn't know I could do that."
Right,
You know,
exactly.
yeah.
So I mean, this is a possibility that I hate to say this because it's stupid, but my money is on the MCU so
Yeah.
far. Like they've
Yeah.
done it for like 23 movies.
Oh, absolutely.
If they're gonna do it, and it could be a complete catastrophe. It could be. I mean,
We
it's
started out talking about this last. I think it was last segment about risk reward, and what is it? What would make you go to a theater after seeing this trailer? I would go because I would want to see the experience of this thing.
I would go
feels like
too.
an event.
But if I was hesitant at all, or if my wife or son or whoever I'm going to see it with is hesitant, I'd have no problem waiting for the third week and going
Yeah.
to see it when the theater is empty, or maybe getting some feedback from friends that I trust, and just staying off of YouTube for a while.
Yeah.
which is for the best anyway.
I might lose the urgency of wanting to rush out to a crowded theater.
Sure.
So I think even the people who want to see it, the numbers still, if they're going to judge it by the first weekend,
Yeah.
it still could take a hit.
Whether or not it's going to do well or not, seeing this trailer is, to me, is different than seeing the other MCU Phase 4 trailers. This feels like an event. It feels like something that they managed to through no fault of their own.
There's A-list characters in it for one.
Yeah.
There's things that you care about. There's things that you know.
Yep.
There's Easter eggs that you're really interested in. You don't know how they're going to do. It is a little bit like Infinity War and Endgame.
Right.
And even like the last Harry Potter movie, where all the stuff that was set up is kind of coming together.
Yep.
I think they're going to tie in Venom in some way, somehow. Maybe at the end is like a, the next part sort of thing. But to me, it'd be stupid not to. If you're Sony and you got two franchises that are actually from the same franchise, at some point they're going to dovetail. And I think now is a great time, especially if they're introducing Carnage and all the symbiotes, or is it symbiotes?
It's either one.
I always
Your
read it
choice.
in my head as
Potato.
symbiotes.
Yeah, I went symbiote too. I was a symbiote guy.
How about Michelini? Do you say Michelini?
No, it's
Michelini?
He does say posthumous though,
That's true.
Yeah.
which
That's
I
it,
almost corrected
which is
him on
which is
earlier,
not very
but I
funny.
decided not to. No, it is
That is, though.
totally past the humorous stage of it.
I think it's Michelini, honestly,
Michelini?
because he wrote Hardcore with Bob Layton back in Valiant,
Okay.
and we worked on his stuff a lot. And
And you just mispronounced his name.
everyone,
Sorry.
Yeah, but heck,
yeah.
I mean, you do it all. You made a career out of doing
Yes,
that.
I know.
So
I know.
like, it's all
But
right.
I do it, and it's cute. It's like, wow. It's like I want my name butchered by
By Michael Dolce,
That's what I
yeah.
want.
like
you know?
Fabian Nicciuzzi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a funny Fabian story. After this, guys, it's been a lot of fun. It's been 75 episodes of Rogue Wave. We're coming with some more big announcements next month. Next week, we will be all over Shang-Chi because the release date is coming. And Darren, it's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Half Tank
We'll
Godwin.
see you guys.
Have
And
taste
it's always a pleasure having you.
Nah, it's not. Don't
wanna
lie.
give you a call
Don't
before
lie.
we
Don't
go.
give me a consolation prize.
We will see you guys
Goodbye.
next week.
Rogue Wave.